Howdy, it's Liz again. I participated in a challenge in the month of April, which I got sick and was unable to complete, but I wanted to show you how far I had gotten. I was really pleased with the results, and I wanted to try a couple of new things, and I was able to do that, and I was pretty pleased with it. I also learned a couple of things. The challenge was the April ABCs by DearJulieJulie, and you were supposed to use all of the letters of the alphabet, and there were different challenges for different items. A was altered tag, B was bookmark, and I didn't get everything into the book. I didn't have time to finish, but I wanted to show you what I did get done. One of the things that I was using was a set of prints that I had made on my new printer, which allows me to make 12 by 12 prints. And I was using the digital collection by Digital Curio called Witchwood, which has a great feature fabric in it. And I'm going to open the book so you can see the whole thing that I was able to use. I printed this fabric, or excuse me, this print onto parchment paper, which was in itself an experiment. It did run through the printer. I learned parchment paper is not ideal for this. It doesn't absorb. It's probably because it's treated so that the things don't stick to it when you're cooking. So the ink kept rubbing off. So I sealed it with Mod Podge, which took a couple of coats because it also didn't like that. But as I was putting the Mod Podge on it, the color also smeared a bit, came loose, but it makes a really soft, wonderful finish. And I'm really pleased with the way it ended up looking. I used a book that we had either painted or gessoed white. Just for your edification, the Mod Podge, or the parchment paper, also did not like to be glued down, and I ended up using Fabri-Tac instead of Mod Podge, which I ordinarily would have done. But I wrapped it around the edges, which held it nicely, and then put in the inside end paper covers. Now, one of the reasons that I didn't finish is I got sick, but also I wanted to go with a much larger project than I had done in the past because I wanted to try a new type of binding. I recently got a the thing that makes the eyelets in the binding, and it's awesome. And so I wanted to do an offset binding, which you can see. I have 3 signatures in this one. This signature has 3 holes punched in it. The center one has 2, and the one on the other end also has 3, which gave me the ability to get 3 signatures in because I would have had a really hard time fitting this eyelet in between here. So I'm very pleased with the way that it came out. I don't know if it's because I'm relatively new with the eyelets or it's the eyelets themselves. These eyelets were not particularly cooperative. It took at least one try on practically every one. There seems to be a little bit too much play in the 2 pieces. This is a 2-piece eyelet, and it would mash it, and they were sideways, and I'd very carefully pry them out and do it again. But I'm really pleased with the way this came out. I really like it. I'm not a big person on super decorative covers, which is why this really appealed to me. So I'm going to leave this as is, and I'm going to show you some of the things inside the book. One of the items that we needed to make was an altered tag, and this is what I was going to use for that, if I can figure out which way. This way! There we go. A couple of different layers. And one of the other items that I made was these itty-bitty little tags, and I had a bunch of papers that I printed of the ephemera from this collection, and I printed them the wrong size. They were oversized. So I punched out a bunch of these little tags and decoupaged them to the backs of these papers and cut them out. And then I put each letter of the alphabet on it from a little set of stickers that I had. And I wasn't sure what to do with them. They're gorgeous, they're different prints, and I didn't want to incorporate dictionary definitions, which I really played around with. I wanted them to really stand out. And one of the things that I hear all the time from people who are trying to figure out what junk journals are actually for is, where do you write in a junk journal? Because we put in lots of decorative pages. So I had a whole bunch of this off-white stationery. I did a tri-fold with sort of an envelope finish, and I put them all on here so that whoever gets this journal has a place that is concealed to write their deep thoughts, and places that are less concealed to write things that they might be interested in showing other people. Because one of the other things is people ask you to show them where you're writing in the journal, but if you're writing something sensitive that's personal, you don't want to show people. So if it's folded up in one of these envelopes, you can. And this is what the prints that I was making look like when they're the correct size. And you can see that I punched out those little tags from some of the prints. Anyway, you'll find the whole alphabet in here in the 3 different signatures. I did a couple of different magazine pages. This is the letter J. And little tuck spots. One of the things we had to use were digital prints, and then we had to use things that were yellowed with age. This dragon is from that Witchwood collection, as is this. And the letter S. That one came from one of the butterflies that I misprinted. And we had to have an envelope and then a hiding place. And I went with the sort of the Witchwood into the wild forest theme. So this was in the hiding place. And this is that same sheet again. I printed 2 versions of the parchment. One was dark, very pale, and so I bumped up the color. And I decoupaged this into the center here. And you had to use music in a couple of different places, so I put in some musical notes on that tag. And this one is the letter M. And you had to use a zigzag stitch, which I did. And this is the letter Y. And these are just a couple of free printed tags I found online. And there are a couple of places I used spraying and stenciling on the backs of these prints as well. The letter V. And you had to have a keeping place or secret place. And this is another one. If you fold these up, you can put something secret in here. And this also was made from a stencil, which I think may have been S. The letter D. And the letter T. I also made a couple of little tags which have stamps on them. I have lots of good stamps. So, and here's the letter G, which is a different color again from another butterfly. And Q was to make a quilted tag. And I had seen a tag like this online and I wanted to try it. This is actually paper that I have glued and pieced, antiqued the edges, and sewn around with a zigzag. And I just love the way this came out. Again, there's music paper and the letter X. I think it was extra something So extra writing room is what everybody got with these little envelopes. And the letter L. This was another style of tag that I saw online that I quite like to make great tuck spots with the little rounded corners. This is one of the print pages from the Witchwood collection with little dragons or griffins or something on them. And the letter U. You had to do T, I think, was tearing an edge. So I had used that. Letter I. I just love this print. It's from a book on Tiffany Lalique, I think, and somebody else. And they're talking about the movements in art. And this particular one was a Russian tile, which I quite like. I thought it suited the theme well. All right, the letter Z. Another piece tag and the letter F. I had to use lace in a couple of different places. I think I may have only managed 2 because I didn't get all the tags done. And unfortunately now I need to move on to another project. Letter R. And this is another stencil with a little pocket and a tag inside it. And a frog. Oops. Again, this is another print from that Tiffany book. It's gorgeous. The letter C. And we had to use a recipe page. And then this is another hidden image. This one's sort of the witchy into the woods type image with a girl floating above the ground who's sort of vanishing. I love using these recipe pages with the perforations, and I cut this one specifically so that you would see the perforations. And I had to, because I was cutting it down, I had to use a little washi tape to hold it in place, which worked because W was washi tape. So this is the washi tape here. And another stamped tag and the letter O. I used some fabric in this. I pulled a few little fabric swatches that I had. They're the 3 signatures. This is the outside of one, the outside of the second one, the outside of the third. Another decorated tag with some decoupage, and the letter P. And I had to do something called a flip up, flip down for F, and I had an extra tag that didn't get a letter on it, so I used that to reinforce the area where you flip up and flip down. And this is a Tiffany window, sort of in triptych form, which I had a hard time doing because it apparently was not printed on the page square, so I had to jiggery-pokery that a little bit. This is a coloring book. It's actually from Harry Potter. It has a great design of the family tree of the Malfoys, I think. All right. And the letter Q in this pocket. Letter N. Letter K, and a little tag, and another tree tag, tree stamp. And this one made me laugh. My mother had these napkins of little birds and hats. There we go. Birds. I decoupaged that one on there. I thought it went nicely with the bird theme, though I think those are swallows. And this is a little hinged page as if it's a tip-in. And here's another sort of supernatural into the woods. I think I made this one into a pocket. Yes, a little pocket right there. Another butterfly. This is a great book on bookkeeping. It's quite early. It's very amusing. From the examinations set. It's like 1915, and the prices are so unusual. This is a combination thing. We're supposed to do an altered guest check, and I had no guest checks. I have never actually had any, so I used a Project Life card that was printed in a similar fashion to a guest check. And let me take these out. When I finished it, I thought it was so busy that I decided to tear it here and position the pieces separately. Because one of the other things I needed to have was a page with 2 pockets. So this altered guest check also is a page with 2 pockets, and it has lace and music. So I like it much better this way. All right. Again, the coloring book and the letter B and the letter H and the last of our little stamped tags and the letter E. All right, well, thank you so much for looking. I hope you enjoy it. I think I am going to put this book on Etsy as is. I've sort of given up on actually completing the other tags. So look for this in my Etsy store. There'll be a link below. It's called Our Wild Ride. And thank you so much for looking. I really enjoyed this challenge. I think I'm going to skip a May challenge. I have a lot of other projects, some unfinished items lying around. Thank you so much.